In order to minimise the worst impacts of climate change, governments around the world are seeking new ways to reduce or remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Tens of billions of dollars have been earmarked for research into technologies to capture carbon dioxide and bury it deep underground. But natural systems such as the world's forests and oceans have been doing this job for millennia. A new rapid assessment report from the United Nations Environment Programme has examined carbon capture and storage through a green economy lens and shows the potential for harnessing nature to do the work for us. In fact, the report shows natural ecosystems are not only responsible for absorbing 60% of man's greenhouse gas emissions over the last 150 years, their destruction through deforestation, erosion and conversion to agricultural land has been adding around 20% to human greenhouse gas emissions.
The role of ecosystems in global warming is a vital one. Firstly, they actually sequester and store carbon, and therefore have a vital function in addressing the overall carbon management strategy on our planet. Also in the destruction of forests and also the way we practice agriculture, for instance, we are releasing additional carbon into the atmosphere. Therefore, understanding the role of ecosystems in the global warming context is a vital part of both addressing the sequestration needs that we have, as well as reducing emissions from, for example, deforestation.
The report has been compiled by UNEP's World Conservation Monitoring Centre, based in Cambridge in the UK. Titled The Natural Fix, the role of ecosystems in climate mitigation, it gathers together data from all the world's major biomes, be they forest, grassland, tundra or desert, to examine the role each plays in regulating the planet's CO2.
There are three sort of big biomes in the world that need particular attention in terms of their ability to maximize the amount of carbon that they can actually store from a natural perspective. And those are the tropical forests, the peatlands, and also agricultural systems.
Right, so here
the UNEP report was produced with the aid of satellite imaging to find areas where carbon sequestration is highest.
And let's have a look at the Amazon in more detail.
Okay. Tropical forests were found to have the biggest role.
Tropical forests store the most carbon of all the ecosystems we looked at, about 550 gigatons across the world. And as well as being a huge store, they're actively fixing carbon, actively taking it out of the atmosphere at a rate of about 15% of human emissions.
The satellite imagery also clearly showed the value of protected areas in holding back agricultural conversion.
On this side we've got the protected area, and on this side we've got strip farming.
That's correct.
Can we have a look at the boundary a bit more closely?
Sure. There you go. Pretty clear boundary.
There's still plenty of tree cover on this side, but we've lost a lot of the tree cover and a lot of the carbon where the farming is going on.
However, comparing data from different ecosystems produced some surprising results.
Forests aren't the only ecosystem that matters. Looking at global averages, tropical forests store typically about 160 tonnes per hectare of forest. But looking at peatlands, the global average is nearly 10 times higher at 1,450 tonnes of carbon per hectare.
Peatlands are the most space-effective carbon stores of all ecosystems. Their preservation is therefore a high priority in the effort to stop CO2 levels in the atmosphere rising still further. But peatlands across the world are under threat. In the UK, decades of atmospheric pollution from cities and factories have led to acid rain that kills the mosses and lichens that bind the peat, making them vulnerable to erosion and summer fires.
This is a relatively small gully for the peat district, but as you can see, it's still pretty dramatic. You've got all the peat soil has come away here, there's undercutting, there's a huge volume of peat that's been lost here. And clearly the vegetation is going to find it very difficult to establish on those steep sides, and also the sort of vegetation we want, because peat bog vegetation needs a high water table. Now clearly the water table's gone because the surface is now down here rather than up here. So if we want to save the peat, we want to save the carbon in the soil here, we've got to deal with these erosion gullies.
Rehabilitating peatland is labour-intensive work. Replanting cotton grasses helps bind the soil. Erecting barriers to reduce the impact of flash floods and using biodegradable netting to stabilise gully sides further protect the landscape.
Well, we were looking at the eroding peat earlier, but this is really what we want it to become. This shows you what a healthy bog might look like. You've got here all of this green sort of moss here, the bog mosses. These are the sort of like the building engine really of the blanket bog. They lay down the peat. And also the cotton grass that we were planting out earlier. You can see the little cotton heads there, cotton grass. But crucially, you can see here, if I just press there, you can see the water table really near the surface. This is what we're aiming to see, a healthy natural bog, good for wildlife, good for carbon storage, and good for water quality as well.
Peatlands are the single largest carbon reserve in the UK, with around 3 billion tonnes. That's more carbon than the forests of Britain and France combined. The potential of all natural ecosystems around the world to reduce atmospheric carbon dioxide is huge, from peatland to tundra to desert and to rainforest. Seen through a green economy lens, protecting the natural environment has a double benefit. It also provides opportunities for new green jobs in a green economy.
We have the climate change crisis with us right now, and we also have an employment crisis. We have 1.3 billion people underemployed or unemployed, and we have perhaps another 500 million people in the next 10 years who need work, who need jobs. How will we employ these people? There may be different kinds of employment. Employment in conservation, employment in ecosystem rehabilitation, in improving the condition of our waterways and our forests. And this biosequestration idea of paying people to manage ecosystems in a climate-friendly way opens up the possibility of new kinds of employment for those people who urgently need it, particularly in developing economies.
UNEP is asking governments to seal the deal in Copenhagen this December and agree a climate change deal that will protect people, the planet, and promote a green economy.